and a professional, choose what role you're attending tonight. We'll start in about 2 minutes. Give people a chance to come in, answer the polls. Okay, I'm trying to figure out what question number 4 is. Oops. So somebody on the call has used Charting the Life course Respite tools. That's awesome. Oh, that is awesome. I have not.
Or question number 4, that was clearly me just messing up, trying to get number 5 in there. So sorry about that.
Okay. So if you could all answer the polls, that would be great. We are grant funded. We have to turn in statistics for every training we do, and using a poll is the easiest way to get that. So if you could answer the questions, we'd appreciate it. And I am very curious about the person who has used the Respite tools, the Charting the Life course Respite tools. So I can't wait to hear what you've done with it and how you've used it. All right. Yeah, it's 6:31. I'm going to start sharing my screen. Tracy has put in the chat a link to the handouts, and I'm going to ask you, well, I can mute you. Yeah, I'm going to ask you to stay muted. So tonight, I'm just going to share information from Charting the Life course and person-centered thinking about respite. And excuse me, I want to thank Tracy Mans. You see her on the screen. She is our project manager for the Family Resource Network of Ohio. Thank you, Tracy. Tracy coordinates the trainings, monitors the Zoom, sends you the handouts, facilitates while, you know, co-facilitates with me. She's also an Ohio ambassador for Charting the Life course. A little bit about me. Some of you know me because you've attended other things. So hi, it's nice to see a few of you that are very familiar. I'm a sibling. I retired from the Cuyahoga County Board. I worked there for 36 years. For this presentation though, why this topic is so important to me is I really cannot remember a time in my life when I was not a family caregiver. From the time Nick was 4 years younger than me, I can remember as a child feeding him, helping dressing him, carrying him. So I don't even know when all that started. And currently, I am a full-time caregiver for my partner who had a stroke and is experiencing dementia. And I am unpaid. I'm a family caregiver. So the training tonight is provided by the Family Resource Network of Ohio through funding from the Department of DD, and we are so appreciative of their continued support for us to continue to share information about charting the life course with a variety of audiences. I hope you have gone to our webpage, frnohio.org. When you go to the webpage, there's a pop-up that immediately says, do you want to sign up for notifications? We hope you sign up, because then you'll be on a mailing list about trainings, about resources, about upcoming events. We also hope that you like our Facebook page. We're trying to use the Facebook page to share information about presentations, but also the impact of charting the life course, sharing stories. So tonight, I'm going to talk about the Respite resources. These are the handouts that you should have gotten. You can find them on lifecoursetools.com. And if you think about the webpage, then you go to the tab that says Life Course Library. And under that, you go to Exploring Life Domains and then Respite. It's on the PowerPoint handout that you've gotten. And it's written so that you can find it whenever you want to look for it. So let me give you a little bit of a framework, or as we say, setting the stage. Tonight, I'm going to talk about the principles of charting the life course as they relate to respite. I'm going to introduce you to some of the tools from charting the life course that are useful for planning respite, and identify how to use some of the tools. If you have questions, please, please, please use chat. And I'm just checking how many people are on. Yes, please use chat. That would be, I think, the best way to ask a question. Tracy will monitor chat if I'm talking, and let me know, okay? Charting the life course is the only person-centered approach that I know of that was developed by and for people with disabilities and their families. Ohio is part of the national community of practice on supporting families, with about 23, 24 other states. And that means we get to learn from them, but we also get to share what we're doing. And I recognize that some of you are not from Ohio, because I know who you are. So thank you for joining tonight. The Charting the Life Course Respite tools were developed in partnership with ARCH. And here's what ARCH means. I know some of you were in a session this morning where I could not remember what ARCH meant, but ARCH is the Access to Respite Care and Help. It is a national respite network. And what I want to just remind you of, if you've never heard of ARCH, is they are concerned with respite for families. Families who take care of kids, families who take care of people with disabilities, families who take care of older family members. It doesn't matter. It's not disability specific. ARCH recognizes that families often provide a lot of support to family members that need it. And because of that, they need respite or a break from caregiving. So I'm not talking about the Medicaid service of respite. I am talking about helping families take a break from caregiving. So charting the life course quickly is about having different conversations. I'll actually share some conversations to help people think about respite in a different way. It's about having experiences, having a trajectory of what a good life is. And it's not just about the tools. So I am going to share with you tools. Some people call them forms, but it's not about the tools. It's about the conversations to help people think about what's on that paper. It can be used, they can be used for anyone across the age or ability, because we get information from people's words and actions. If they can't tell us with words, families often can know exactly what someone's trying to communicate from their actions. What we want to see in Ohio is that everyone uses Charting the Life course to have conversations, that families and people with lived experience use it to think about what's a good life, organize their thoughts, and share with the people who help them, whether they're paid or unpaid. We don't want people to just say, oh my gosh, here's another form. We have an Ohio community of practice. We hope you can join us. It is on Zoom. You need to go to Family Resource Network of Ohio and sign up to get the emails, and you'll get notification of the COP meeting and also a way to register, so you get the Zoom link. What we do at community of practice meetings is focus on having people share stories of how they use Charting the Life course and the impact it's made on their lives. I hope you can join us. It's going to be very powerful. So let's talk about taking those short breaks from caregiving, and what's the importance for the family to have short breaks. Well, for some, it means they can spend more time together, that maybe the parents can go out. Maybe it means they can spend time with another child. Maybe it means when they then are together, the time is more quality as opposed to just being caregiving, which can get very, very exhausting. And I say that from firsthand experience. But it also can mean that if you have a break, it might improve the quality of your relationship. And we know that even if you have children, as they get older, you can send them off to do something, or you can have them go dress themselves or take their own bath or shower. And for some people, there is no break. It's constant caregiving. And if people can have a break, maybe they can have a more, in quotes, ordinary family life. For the caregiver, for some caregivers, they need a break just to run errands. I'm so glad that I do not have to worry about running errands, but I will tell you that if I haven't gone to a store just to walk around and shop in years, because I'm so conscious of, okay, I'll be at this store, I'll be home in a half an hour, as opposed to, I think I'll go to the outlet mall and spend the morning. That doesn't happen anymore. One mother told me that all she wanted to do was be able to take a bath in her own bedroom, in her own, not bedroom, I said bedroom, I apologize, a bath in her own bathroom, and shut the door and not worry about whatever was going on outside that bathroom door. For some people, it may mean I could go visit friends. For me, respite for me is when I can go have dinner with my very good friend who's like a sister to me, or that I can, I have two nieces, they don't live in Ohio. But when they are in Ohio, they usually go to Columbus because that's where their in-laws are. And I live in Cleveland, 3 hours away. And last year they were both in Columbus, overlapping one day, and said, Auntie Barbie, can you meet us in Columbus? And I was like, yes, I got to make it happen because I wanted to see my nieces. And it just taking that break just gives you a sense of renewal. For the care recipient, for my partner, you know, think about it. Maybe whoever's providing the respite can do something that the caregiver doesn't do because they're so overwhelmed with caregiving. Maybe they need a break from us. I don't know why, but of course they do, because when you're the one that's always directing and guiding and caregiving, you know, sometimes they need a break from us too. For some people, it could be they get to do something that they like that maybe the caregiver doesn't do. So I did this training with some people who provide therapeutic respite for youth that have dual diagnosis. And they were like, oh my gosh, I want to know what the young adult likes, what the teen likes, so that maybe if they like basketball, we can go shoot hoops. Maybe mom can't do that or doesn't care to. Maybe I can help them do something they really enjoy that they don't have the opportunity to do. So our core concept in charting the life course is we want everyone to have the life that they want, that they value, that they can live, love, work, play, and pursue their life aspirations in their community. So as I said before, this is for all people, all caregivers across the lifespan. It's for all people. We recognize that family systems are very important, and families provide a lot of support that the system could not take on. They just can't. They couldn't afford to. And so we recognize the importance of that family, whether that family is chosen or biological. We also recognize that people need breaks across the life stages and have the right to have their good life. We'll talk about what would be the outcomes for good respite. And we'll help people think about those 6 life domains, the interrelated, interconnected life domains, as they think about what would I do if I had respite? What would be important to me? And then the 3 buckets of support: giving information, helping them connect with others, and connecting them to services and supports. We'll take a quick look at the integrated support star to help people think about where can I get support to take a break, not just the paid respite service. And I already told you that ARCH is very active nationally in supporting legislation to support families and provide respite. And if you go to their website, there's just an enormous amount of information about respite. So as I said, we recognize that all people exist in the context of family, whether they're chosen or biological, and that we want everyone to have their good life. So we want everybody to have control over their life, but we also want to recognize that families have strengths and they're resilient, but they also need support. And so we want to support not only the person, but also the family. And we want to make sure that everyone has a better life. So I'm just going to go over a couple concepts you'll see in the tools. Important 2 comes from person-centered thinking. It is in Medicaid rule. It is in Ohio rule. And what important 2 refers to is those things in people's life that give them happiness, help them feel content and comforted. And there's 8 areas. So when we talk about important to the caregiver, we would be talking about helping them think about these 8 areas. Important 4 is often seen in plans, and it's what other people say. So what other people say about health, safety, and being seen as a valued member of the community. Now, let me just go back. If a person says, I don't want to be in the hospital as much, I don't want to take as much medication, I want to feel better, even though all of that is related to health and safety, it is important to the person because they said it with their words. Important 4 is what other people say is needed. So we sent you the Charting the Life Course portfolio. Somebody said they've used it. I would love to know who. If you want to type in chat, let me know if you have used the Charting the Life Course portfolio for respite. Not the portfolio, but the portfolio for respite. Hi, Diana. I just read in chat, but I also see you. Good to see you from Missouri. So this portfolio can be completed by both the caregiver and the care recipient. So we value and honor the perspective of the person as well as the perspective of the family. And please remember that help is defined by the person receiving the help, not by the giver of help. So think about in your own life, when people have done something and they think they're helping you and you're like, oh, please just leave me alone, because you're thinking, I now have more work. So my mother also lived with me when she had a stroke and had dementia. And some of the people from aging would come in my home and they would get her so upset, but they thought they were helping. And they would be here for an hour, which is what they could bill for. And then they left. And the rest of the day, I had to deal with my mother being so upset. And I thought, you did not help me. You just pushed me and my mother right over the edge. So, yes. So remember, help is defined by the person receiving it. So on the front of the respite portfolio is a sheet called Exploring Respite. I love this. So again, this can be completed by the caregiver or the care recipient. So think about the first section is what's going on in my life? What does caregiving look like? You know, is it 24/7? Are people not able to sleep? You know, my brother Nick had apnea. And so if he was at my house for holidays or visiting or whatever, I often had to sleep next to him, either on the floor or in the bed next to him, because if he stopped breathing, I'd have to nudge him and wake him up and, Nick, are you okay? So my caregiving meant that I did not sleep when Nick was at my house. What are the concerns and stressors? Are they that you have no break? Are they that you, for me, sometimes I get very short-tempered with my partner when he asks me for the 10th time in 1 minute the same question. And then I have to remember, take a breath. He can't remember, take a breath. So some of those stressors. And what's the impact on the caregiver? What's the impact on the person? You know, for me, I feel bad about myself because I'm like, he's not doing this intentionally. For him, I don't want him to feel that he is not capable. And so I back off because it's like, oh my God, I don't want him to feel bad about himself. The second section is how would taking short breaks help? So what would the impact be on the caregiver, but also the care recipient? You know, he would see somebody else. He would have an opportunity to have a conversation with somebody else. And I'll talk about what that person needs to be like if they're going to be a good care respite provider. And then the third section is, what would I do if I had a break? And be very specific. You know, in Ohio, we can, if people are on a waiver, we can build in some staffing support so they have respite. But if you have a break, what would you do? For me, as I said, it would probably be going out to dinner. It would be visiting family if they were anywhere near where I could drive. And that is one of the reasons I use respite. For me, it also might be if I have to go out of town to do some training, and that's been very, very minimal, but I still need to have support when I do that. What would I do? Who would I spend time with? And it would be my nieces, my good friend. I don't abuse the person who helps me and provides respite. So I'm very cautious about weighing when I ask her to help. You know, I don't just say, oh, I think I'll do this. It's something that's got to be very important. And then what needs to be comfortable? What needs to be in place so I'm comfortable? When I was looking for someone to give me a break, I was very concerned about having someone in my home because they also had to be able to get in the house. So I used a lockbox on the door with the key because my mother and my partner, by the time they got to the door to open it, she might have thought something bad had happened. So, trusting someone in the house, having someone who would not make them feel like they were incapable, but was just here to support. And the reason I love the person who helps me is she doesn't double check. She just has conversation with them. So how you doing? Hey, let's get dinner. Oh, okay. And when she's getting the dinner, she's checking the pill minder to make sure that George took his pills. It's not a, let me check your pill minder. Let me do this, let me do that. It's very without attention. That's the best way to say it. So if you think about what a good life is that we have dreams and we have people who believe in us, that we have what's important to us. Going to church used to be important to me, and then the pandemic hit. And then one time I went to church, I didn't have backup because I thought George can be alone for a couple hours, and he called me 6 times. And I thought, well, that's the last time I go to church because it caused so much stress for both of us that I was like, you know what, I can live with this. And actually I told my priest, and he's such a good man. He said to me, Barb, there are different kinds of church, and you are at church on Sunday. And so I went, oh, thank you so much. So it was nice to have somebody validate my concerns, my attempts, but also recognize that being in church does not mean going to the building. So we talk about the life domains because I want people, the caregiver and the care recipient, to think about what is a good life, because we want respite to be supporting people in a way that they have their good life. So there are 6 life domains. We don't prioritize any of the domains. We don't say this one is more important, and we don't weigh them against each other. So just know that it's what the person says and what they prioritize. A resource that I like to give to people and families is the vision tool. So as they're thinking about what is a good life, so that if I leave and someone else comes in to support, what would be something that would be something good to do, that would make respite good. This is a vision tool. It's on lifecoursetools.com under Life Course Library, under Foundational Tools, and under Person Centered. Anybody can fill this out. So the person can fill it out, the mom can fill it out, the dad can fill it out, a sibling can fill it out, and you can use the same form because it says name of person completing it and on behalf of. So if the person fills it out for themselves, it's Barb on behalf of Barb. So as I was thinking about why do I need respite, one of the reasons was because I like my job. I like sharing information about charting the life course with families, with professionals. Before COVID, I was traveling a lot in Ohio and nationally. And so a good life was that I was able to do that and not just be a caregiver. And so it was important for me to be able to think about that and write that down so I could identify why I needed respite and what I would be doing if I had some respite support, someone to give me a break. Social and spirituality, I will go to church when I can. And so I have a friend now who will remind me when there are evening services, which are much easier for me to leave and go to than a Sunday service because of the time of day and because of length, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I can go to other services. Social and spirituality, being able to spend time with my nieces when they're in Ohio, with my friend to go have dinner or go sit on her deck and have a glass of wine and watch the sunset, whatever. Inside, or the second page of the respite portfolio, asks the caregiver and the care recipient to identify what is their good life. So hence why I introduced the domains and the vision tool. They've done that. They've thought about those 6 areas, and now they can put it on this portfolio. So what is a good life? And you see there's 3 boxes up here where the arrow is pointing. What is a good life for the caregiver? What is a good life for the recipient? And what is a good respite? So a good respite for my partner right now is someone who comes in and is cheerful, doesn't judge, doesn't direct, gives him his dinner or a meal. If usually meal times are when I'm concerned because he won't remember to go get food. And he can no longer use a microwave. So somebody who can heat up dinner, who will, straighten up things a little bit if they need to be straightened up. We'll check the pill minder. So that's good respite. And also, my friend who gives me breaks also says, I like to just sit and chat with him. I just don't want him to see me coming in and doing and leaving. So she might sit and watch part of the baseball game with him. And I'm like, you don't have to, you have a family. But she's like, I just don't want to breeze in and breeze out. So good respite is that she actually sits and spends time with George and talks with him. And then what you don't want. If anybody came in and started bossing him around, that would be the end. If someone came in and I couldn't trust them, that would be the end. So thinking about what would not work. And then on the far left, let me go to the next slide. I already talked about what doesn't work. On the far left, what have you tried in the past? So in the past, I could leave him alone all day and my only concern would be overnight, but we had cell phones and kept in touch. He also could use FaceTime. However, that doesn't work now. So respite has to look a little different. Trying something that didn't work, I can't think of anything that we tried that didn't work. And then what would it take? Well, I had to ask the person who provides me some support if she was willing to do a little bit more because he needs a little bit more support. Can you do some other things? And I made sure those were written down so she didn't have to remember what needs to happen. And then looking at the star, the integrated support star. So in the center, in the white star, you could write whatever, respite, or it could be going out to dinner with friends once a month. Because if we're looking for people to help us, they are more likely to help us if we can be very definitive about what we're looking for. So I did a 2-day training last week. I'm trying to think. And so I was very specific. Can you come on Monday at 5? Can you come at Tuesday at noon and 5? And can you come on Wednesday at noon and 5? And I will be here. You have my cell phone. But can you do these things at these times? And it's much easier to have someone help you when you can be specific. So we use the integrated star to brainstorm. And I'm going to go through each of the 5 sections. So think about personal strengths and assets. What can the person do? Initially, Both my mother and George could use the microwave. Currently, he still knows how to use his cell phone to call. So that's a good thing. He can read. And so if I need to give him some guidance, I can write it and he can read it. He will look at it and then he can follow the written. And it could be something as simple as the Cleveland baseball team is playing at 7 o'clock on this channel, because that's important to him to watch the baseball game. He doesn't wander, so I don't have to worry about him leaving the house or doing anything like that. So what are the person's personal strengths? Can they use a cell phone? Can they be home alone for a certain amount of time or certain parts of the day? For relationships, who do you know? And people are like, I don't have family, but think beyond family. I don't have family either. It's me. My nieces, one lives in Connecticut, one lives in Seattle. They are on opposite ends of the country. He has adult children. The one that lives the closest does nothing. The one that lives in Georgia will fly in if I need some support over several days. So it's not just whether you have family or not. When I first said, you know, if I'm going to be gone a full day, I would feel better if someone just had eyes on. There wasn't much that needed to be done. I just felt better if someone could actually look, do eyes on, and just let me know how things are. And I called a friend that I trusted, that I knew could not help me because she retired to help her daughter and son-in-law take care of their children, one of whom had just been diagnosed on the spectrum. And I talked to her and I said, look, when I go out of town, I would love someone to be able to drop in, just do a check, tell me how, if everything looks okay, you know, say hello. They didn't have to do a lot initially. And I said, but, you know, do you know anybody? I don't know anybody. And she said, yeah, Barb, your neighbor. And I said, what do you mean my neighbor? And she said, you know, and she gave me the name. And I said, I don't know who that is. And she said, yes, you do. And I said, no, I don't. And she said, she has a white dog. I said, I know who you mean. And so I asked somebody I trust, and they connected me to somebody else. So, you know, I would not have gotten help if I did not reach out and ask, do you know anybody? Within minutes, she said, can I call her and ask her if she'd be willing to help you? I said, sure. She said, can I share information about your family? I said, yes. Within minutes, I had this woman's phone number and a text from my friend that says she's waiting for you to call. So in one evening, within a matter of 15, 20 minutes, I reached out twice for help. And you need to know I'm not someone who reaches out for help often. And so I thought twice in 15 or 30 minutes was like, oh. And on the far left, think about, when you're thinking about who can help, think about people who have information, people who have connections, and people who have experience. For technology, you know, what technology can the person use? As I said, they both use cell phones. They both were able to use the microwave initially. I had a clock that told them, that rang to remind them to take medication, that also told them what day it was, whether it was evening. They both knew how to handle the remotes on the TV and cable. And you may laugh, but I'm telling you, that's a critical thing, is that they were able to turn on that TV and watch TV. But what other technology? And then community resources. You know, some people get respite from day programs. Some people get respite from camp. Some people get respite from their waiver services. But also, I know that there are some faith-based communities in Ohio that offer respite to people, to families. So one offers it usually around the holidays, and they'll do like a date Saturday afternoon where they'll provide respite to children with disabilities and their siblings. I was doing this presentation and one of the women attending said, my church offers respite once a month. And I was like, oh my gosh, you're kidding. And, so if you're part of a faith-based community that wants to do something and help out, there are faith-based communities that will provide respite. So families can have some time together. Parents can go have a date dinner or lunch or whatever. And then eligibility specific supports, the waiver, IDD, for IDD waivers, aging waivers, day supports, adult senior centers. There's lots of eligibility specific supports. Here is a respite starter star. In the center is just a way to think about respite support options. And looking at the 5 areas of the star. Again, I have listed where on lifecoursetools.com you can find it. This is not the end all. It's just a beginning to help you think about what should I consider when I'm looking at these 5 areas of support. So I want to back up for a minute. And I want you to, I don't know if you are family members, if you are caregivers or what, but I want you to think about, let's go back, and I apologize for going backwards. I want you to think about, you probably all are caregivers. You've taken care of somebody in your family, whether it was a child or maybe an older relative. But what would you do if you had a short break from caregiving? And type it in chat. What would you do if you had a break from caregiving? Because if you're a professional, a lot of you are SSAs, which are service coordinators. I hope you're listening to this information with the thought of, as I'm supporting someone who may be looking for a break, helping them figure out what they would do. So I'm going to look at chat. Diana, I see your request for the presentation in the chat. At the very top, there is a link to the email and the handouts. So if you look in chat, is it there? If it's not there, it might have meant that you joined after it was typed in there. Do you see it? Yes? Okay. Take a long shower, visit Italy. Oh, you are really pushing respite for how many days? Awesome. Yoga, yes. Grab a meal with friends, play basketball. I would go on a date. Awesome. And that's some of the therapeutic respite providers were like, that. I want to know what they like so that I can not just be a glorified babysitter, but that while I'm providing the respite, I can do something that's important to them or that they'll enjoy or that they don't have the opportunity to do. Sit and enjoy the silence. I hear you, Tracy. Go fishing. Absolutely. Now I want you to think about the top box And remember to share this when you're talking to families. What would good respite look like? I guess it's the arrow, huh? Sorry about this, guys. So what would good respite look like? And think about, you're leaving, you're going to Italy, you're going camping, you're going to yoga, you're going to play basketball. You're leaving. How will you know that the respite is good? What will it look like? I told you what it would look like for me. Someone who could come in that I trust, someone who would not be controlling and directing, someone who would be respectful and not make them feel they were no longer capable. Someone who joked around with them. So just wasn't coming in and doing caregiving, you know, someone who does the mechanics. That's great, but I wanted someone who could do the mechanics, but also be interactive and respectful. So what would it look like if someone were providing respite to someone you love? What would they be doing? That's a good one, Tiffany. For the caregiver, being able to ask for help without feeling guilty. That is a challenge. That is definitely a challenge. What would good respite look like? Okay, I don't see much. I think it's hard to think about it if you don't have a person in mind. Ah, there you go. Yeah, they would be, absolutely, they would have a good time. And that's, I will tell you, Amber, that one of the things that made me feel better would be, I knew that I left, I knew that the respite, my friend was going to come in at a certain time, and I would call like an hour later. And if George picked up the phone and said, "Oh, she is such a nice lady. We had such a nice conversation," I would just be like, "Oh, thank you." I feel so much better. Diana, I see your hand is raised. Do you want to unmute?
My hands are tremoring so much I can't type. My answer would be that, ask me the question again, please.
Either what would you do if you had respite and could go do something, or what would good respite look like for someone you loved?
Good respite would be knowing that you're getting proper care for the one that you love and that it's implemented correctly. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Thank you. And thank you for unmuting. That's fine. Thank you. Some other things in chat. Honestly, being able to ask questions. Tell me when things are just right, I think. And also I want the person to be honest. Look, this didn't work. And so I did this, I hope you don't mind. Loved ones feeling excited to seeing the person. Absolutely. Because then, whether they can tell us with words or not, just the fact that they're excited to see them is like, okay, that's a good sign. And she agrees. I would not feel like a chore is something that I would not feel like a chore or something that had to be done. Yes. And that was important to me too. I didn't want her to just come in and do the mechanics. And she was the one who said, if I'm going to heat up dinner for him, she said, I'm not going to sit there and watch him eat. So she said, I put a power bar in my pocket and I sit down with him and I eat my power bar while he eats dinner. And I'm like, oh, you don't have to. And she's like, no, I don't want him to be sitting there and thinking I'm watching him eat. So absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for your comments. So let me go ahead now, since I went backwards. So again, the starter star gives you things to think about. Some of the things I've already mentioned, but don't overlook people who know people. You know, no one can offer you help if you don't put it out there. And even somebody might be willing to provide you an hour so that you can go do something. But if you say, will you provide me respite? They might go, whoa. But if you're very specific, it would help me if you could do this or whatever. So I have found that it's better when I'm very specific. Now, I have not tried I want to go to Greece or Italy, but you know, but that would take a little bit more. So just a reminder, we want everyone to have their good life. And that means we need to respect the caregiver and support the caregiver, not just the care recipient. I am gonna quit sharing in a minute. So we've talked the highlighted principles that this is for all people across the lifespan. It's because we respect that family system and that we want people to have a life they value, a trajectory across their life stages, have outcomes, looking at those domains and looking at the integrated supports. I've shared with you the vision tool, the respite portfolio, the starter star, and we also sent you the respite guide, which is a booklet. All of these things are on lifecoursetools.com. And the respite guide is just if you want to get some additional information. I love that Charting the Life course worked with Arch to develop the guide. So really talking to experts about respite and people who look at respite for everyone. Please know that if you think the respite tools will be helpful, that you have a specific reason and you share it with the family or the person that you're working with. And know that this is not something that, oh, I'm going to use with everybody on my caseload because everybody needs a break. No, there's got to be a reason. You know, what might the reason be? And type it in chat. Those of you that have heard now and seen the respite tools, why do you think you would use it? And be specific. A lot of you are SSAs, service coordinators. So why would you use any of these tools or resources? You joined tonight because the title must have had some meaning for you or interest.
This is Diana again. Or
Yeah, hi Diana.
I am a self-advocate. I joined this because I am a guardian of my brother who has dementia and is in a nursing home. And I am under tremendous stress because of all that. And now I have systemic tremors because the seizure meds have given out. as you can tell, because Barb has known me through quite a few different meetings.
Absolutely, Diana. I'm so glad you
That's
joined
why-
tonight.
That's why I asked you to email that.
Absolutely. Diana, you bring up a good point that I want to respond to. And that is, I shared my story. I am a caregiver every day in the same environment. You are not, but that doesn't mean it's less stressful. It's still stressful. Oh my gosh, I have to worry about them. Oh my gosh. And just to be able to, what I say, and I'm sure you're experiencing it too, is you're never away from the stress and the worry. Never. And it doesn't matter whether you're sitting next to them or whether they're 20 miles away. There's still that stress and worry. And we need to take breaks, whatever the break is, whatever is meaningful to each of us. So thank you for bringing up that point, Diana. Thanks. I just want to also remind you, think about using this on yourself. A lot of you have identified what would I do if I could have some respite? And also remember that the paper belongs to the person. So if you're working with a family and you think if they talk about being stressed or they can't find a provider, and you're helping them think about other possibilities, let them know. Let's see if we can come up with something. This might help you think about possibilities and make sure they keep the paper. So let me see. I want to read chat. To add to everyone's voice and choice, absolutely, to brainstorm. Tiffany, you work with transition students and respite's a huge, yes, it's a huge need. And the tools are great to help them personalize, yes. And for each student and each family needs, respite is different for everybody. And I think that's why we ask the questions. What would you do? What would good respite look like? What don't you want? I'll check chat in a minute. I see there's additional comments. Yes, absolutely. To pull thoughts into words and take action on respite. For me, being a parent of a special needs teen boy, me and my spouse are, caregivers 24/7. So able to think and ask for respite itself needs courage. Absolutely. Absolutely. I will tell you, when I asked, I knew that I didn't have to worry about respite for about 4 months. But I started thinking about it, and it took me a while to ask my friend. I did talk to the area agency on aging, but what they could offer me was not going to meet my need. And so it was like, okay, this is not going to work. I got to find another way. And as I said, I am not someone who asks for help easily. But I was very lucky that I got connected with someone who is truly an angel. These are some things that we're doing that are coming up from the Family Resource Network of Ohio. They are open to anyone. You just have to register, so you get the Zoom link. We're doing a community of practice. I already mentioned that on the 27th. On the 11th, 18th, 25th, and August 1st, we're doing Lunch with Life course, where we're going to talk about very quickly one resource and how to use it. On Wednesday, August 3rd, 10th, and 17th, I'm going to do a family series in the evening, going through Charting the Life course and helping families see how they can use the tools. I am not going to talk about the respite tools. I'm going to talk about some of the other Charting the Life course tools. So if you are family and you want to learn a little bit more, please plan on attending. It's a series, so it's not repeated. It's every night will be different. And then if you know anybody that wants to know a little bit more about charting the life course, we're doing an overview on September 8th for 3 hours with CEUs. The family series, we're not giving CEUs. Again, I talked about life course, and I want to stop sharing. We're a small group. I want to ask you if you would like to unmute and tell me, are you thinking you might use one of the tools, and what did you appreciate about this presentation? So anybody who wants to unmute, please do and share. Please. Or you can type in chat.
Just reminds you that that I need to do some respite. And I really like the question, what does good respite look like for, not just for my person, but also for myself? Because sometimes you get somebody to take over and then you're like, okay, now what? But sometimes all I can do is just sit there and do nothing, but that's good enough.
Yep.
So.
Yep, exactly. But we also need to think about, okay, I have an opportunity. Let me use it so then I don't have regrets. I should have. Why didn't I? Anand, if I said your name wrong, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, that's right. Thank you so much, Barbara, for this session. In fact, thinking about respite itself, it's I mean, me and my spouse have been taking care of my son when he was diagnosed at 3.5 years old. Now he is 14. So it's been either both of us are taking care of him, or we ensure that there is one of us along with him, whether he's at home or different place. I think the only time that I could, listening to this tool and the stories that you shared, we are able to do things that we plan is when he is in school and during the school year. We both work, so that's the only time. But otherwise, one of us has to stay in a place and take care of him. So it's hard for us to even spend time alone. It's because when I think about respite, it's like I think why I should ask and have someone else, I mean, put them in a place where someone has to do things for my son. So that asking for help itself was a big hurdle for me to get through. But I think having seen these tools, having an opportunity to put the thoughts into words, write it down, whatever we feel that where we need help itself I think that itself is a big challenge for me. And if I'm able to get that using these tools, I think that'll be my first step towards respite and how to take that action. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you for sharing that. I agree. It's very hard to ask, and it's very hard to ask someone to do things that we do because we love the person, and the things we might be asking them to do might be uncomfortable, maybe. It's very hard. And I had brothers, my brother Nick needed total care. So dressing, changing, putting him on the toilet, everything.
Yeah.
And that's hard to ask for,
Yeah. I had an younger brother. He's no more, but exactly the same situation, like taking care of him, giving him shower, dressing him up, putting him in toilet, and so on. And he had cerebral palsy. So he was not even able to walk. So it's, I totally understand.
I hope, as you said, I hope you taking the time and having the opportunity to think and write it down, that you can then find someone who can provide something that will be helpful for you and your spouse.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, I think a lot, and I think as a parent and as a caregiver, we continuously. I don't think so. Our mind shuts off anytime thinking about our loved ones who needs care and help. I think that's always on. But I think putting the thoughts in words and seeing it in front of us itself, it's I think it. I think that will definitely call us into action. So I definitely, that is what I learned today, and I'm going to implement it, try it, learn it. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. So there are some comments. There's a comment for you in chat, Anand. I'm working on becoming, Penny said, I'm working on becoming an independent provider and respite provider. I'm interested in the process and be educated on what to ask. Oh, Penny, I hope you take that and use it when you meet someone so that you can figure out how to best support them. That would be awesome. And Amber says respite is one of the most difficult topics. Yep, there's so much involved, lack of providers, lack of trust. And I will be honest, the person I use is not a provider. And it's private. So it's not someone who's gone through being certified as a provider. It's somebody that helps me and that I private pay, to put it quite honest. It is so essential though, because we are usually, we all need respite. Absolutely. We all need respite. Why do parents hire babysitters, right? Except we need people who are a little more skilled than just somebody who can come over and babysit. Awesome. Any other comments?
This is Diane. My tremors have stopped so I can talk.
Oh, great.
Okay. I want to let your parents know that I'm your children as they grow older. I'm 62 years old. So look at me, and as you advocate for your children today, think about a person like me sitting in her sewing room that's starting to come alive. And that's been, my mother advocated for me in the 60s, in the 70s, to keep me out of an institution. So they didn't have respite back then. They didn't even have Special Olympics. I missed out on all that fun. But all these wonderful tools that are now available for you, take advantage of them, use them, use what Barb has got set up in your state. I'm in the state of Missouri, where the life course first got started. And we don't have respite here. For some way, some idiotic reason, legislators don't think it's important. And that's where we need to all lobby for it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you, Diana. And thank you for your tribute to your mom, who had to advocate for everything because there was nothing. So
I'm on the Missouri Planning Council and have been for 11 years. And I'm about ready to get off, Barb.
Oh, okay.
And I could start doing more work like you.
Awesome.
But
Awesome.
I've got so much knowledge in my head. It's just they've got to stop my brain from shaking before comes Pomodoro salad.
Hopefully they'll find a way to help you have a little bit more control over those tremors, Diana. Thank you so much. Are there any other, I'm finished, so I don't want to keep you, but if there are other questions, I'm happy to stay on and answer. Otherwise, thank you all for attending. Good luck. And I appreciate you being on. Thanks, everybody. Bye, Diana.